So part number 7, co-founder conversation exercise. Making sure you're aligned with co-founders can help mitigate problems while building a business. This exercise is designed to help you craft conversation starters with your co-founder and strengthen your relationship. Here we go.
If you're watching this, take a piece of paper and a pen. And I want you to draw a graph of your personal performance over the last 3 months. Be honest. No one's going to see this but you. You're not going to hand this in. You're not going to share this with your co-founder. So be honest to yourself. And when you're done, on that exact same graph, I want you to chart your co-founder's performance. Are they the same?
No.
No. If they're different, have you talked to your co-founder about why? Right? Most people haven't. Some have. That's awesome. Most haven't. I don't want you to give this to your co-founder. I want you to rip it up and throw it out, right? But what I am suggesting is that you can use that as a starting point for a conversation. I'm not suggesting that you are performing better than your co-founder. You might be performing worse. Have you talked to your co-founder about that? Hey, I'm scared. And my fear is really affecting my work, right? Or the reverse is true. Man, you had a really high output for a long time, and all of a sudden, it feels like you're slowing down. What's going on? Are you okay? Everything all right? Can I help with anything? Having that conversation is a really great starting point for what's going on in your relationship with your co-founder and in the business. Okay? And having periodic check-ins. I mentioned life dinners earlier. This is something that's from Brad's book. My husband and I do life breakfasts because honestly, we're too tired at dinner to talk seriously about anything. But whatever rhythm, where we just sit down and talk about how you're doing. Like, how are you? And it's a non-emotional exchange of things. My husband will tell me, you know what, your travel schedule right now is killing me. And I go, okay, wow, I didn't know that. But it's an opportunity for him to voice what's going on. And it's same thing for you guys, right? Where you allow each other the space and the freedom to talk about what's going on with you emotionally and personally, that can help strengthen the business, not weaken it. It is really serious stuff. It's also really powerful stuff because when the 2 of you can, or 3 of you, or however many co-founders there are, or 1 of you, get help, right? Is to boost each other up. The sum of the parts is greater than, the sum of the whole is greater than each individual part, right? You guys can actually be way stronger together if you start practicing great communication, and supporting one another and trusting one another and getting to problems before they become issues. You guys can actually be so much more powerful. Your business will be way more successful versus it tanking. And it's a beautiful thing when it happens. It's amazing when it happens.
Very good, guys. So to everybody who made it back, welcome back. So we have gone through the videos now, and the last section is to go to the worksheet and apply the knowledge. I'm just going to briefly walk you guys through it. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because it really is an active exercise for you to do with your co-founders. So if you are looking at this as something for future reference, this will be saved afterwards and uploaded, so you can come back to it and look at the videos, go through them. To anyone who hasn't already seen it, in the description of the video, there should be the link to the Techstars Toolkit. Otherwise, you can just search Techstars Toolkit online. You could go to it and see all of the different sessions. Go to Navigate Cofounders Relationships, and you can go right into the exercises here. So this is just a bit of a brief on what was said. The steps to building positive co-founder relationships. These are key. So what you want to look at is finances, salary, hiring, firing, product direction, product decisions, sales, responsibilities, hours worked, and vacation. Each of those is a conversation topic for yourself and for your co-founder. You can have that conversation about it, make sure you're on the same page, write it down, and have it as a part of what you use to introduce to anybody who's coming into your company. Hey, here's how we look at finances, here's how we look at hiring, firing, to the extent that they're at that level. If they're just a casual worker, doesn't have to be a part of that whole conversation, but it's just to have it down and have it agreed upon as you start. So how are you feeling on any of these topics? If there's tension, what are the steps needed to resolve it? Pretty straightforward. Then you go on to examples of what ifs. So these are kind of the contingency planning for what comes next, like what's coming up down the road that we might need to be ready for. What if a co-founder leave? What if a co-founder wants to leave? Is playing more than producing, spending money irresponsibly, isn't delivering a product, isn't being truthful with investors. Each of those is a what if that it's good to have the conversation before you have to have the conversation, because when you're having that conversation, it's often based on potentially negative behavior of a co-founder that you need to address in the moment. And when you can look back and go, hey, here's what we looked at, here's how we addressed this, let's have a conversation about it, it's much more straightforward than a he said, she said argument when you're at that point. So what are the what ifs? And based on those what ifs, what documents do you need to get in order to protect the business? Do you need to engage? Who do we need to engage to get this done? So this can be a co-founders agreement. This is the basis of creating your co-founders agreement, is we agree on these are the rules of the game, if you will, of how we're going to develop this business going forward. Once you go through the what ifs, you go on. There's a strengths and weaknesses exercise just here. So you look at your strengths, your co-founder's strengths, my weaknesses, my co-founder's weaknesses, overlapping skills with my co-founder, overlapping skills from my co-founder's perspective, where I think we have talent gaps and where my co-founder believes there are talent gaps. And by looking at those two columns, you can see the gap in between. So once you have this insight, this is how does this insight change the way you make decisions, adjust workflow, obtain talent, and grow the business. This is looking at kind of what we said before with the you want to apply the work to the skill sets that everybody has. So look at the skill sets that everybody on your team has and then apply the work that needs to get done to those skill sets. This is a really good exercise, and I think you can do one of these on almost any of the topics that you have. So when it comes to finances, what am I good at? What are you good at? Because in the early stages, everybody does a bit of everything. But if you look at those first and then off the back of this create a plan of action for who's going to be responsible for what, it makes for a much easier conversation as you go forward. Then we keep going down. What are your personal goals for this company in 1, 3, 5 years? What does success look like for you? This is looking at the long term. What is success? What is your output that you're looking for from this company? As was mentioned in the videos, some people are looking to exit with a bunch of money, and some people are looking to work on this business for the rest of their lives. As long as that's a discussion you have up front, it's something that you can work with and can address as you go forward. We keep going on. I'm not going to go into the detail on absolutely every single one of these because it is an exercise for you to walk through with yourself and your co-founder. But these are some things about burnout, some of the concerns around burnout, and some of the symptoms of burnout if you're like overworked, which can happen in a startup, and having a conversation about what you need to do to make sure that everybody is still able to work to their highest capacity is something that you can do here. Money is a stressor. What culture? So finances, culture, those are the things. I'm just going to keep scrolling us down because there's a lot here. The vision for the company, for you, when you're having conversations. So this is how you can have an effective conversation, some top tips for having an effective conversation with your co-founder. And one of the key ones that I'll point out is just the second to last one. Identify the facts in this problem. It's about facts. It's not necessarily about the emotions around it. If you can get to the facts of the problem and how you're going to solve them, you will move yourself in a positive way. So keep going down. What are you currently doing to build trust with your co-founder? Who can help us get the guidance we need to improve our relationships? Write the answer below. So these are kind of just the last few things to help you exercise. Now, this is an exercise designed to get you thinking about you and your co-founder's performance levels and open a discussion about any variance. So you need a piece of paper and you need a pen. On the x-axis, you're creating a graph. On the x-axis, you are going to label performance. And on the y-axis, you will label it month and divide it into 3 months. So you look at 3 months going forward. Chart of your personal performance over the last 3 months. Be honest. Chart of your co-founder's performance over the next 3 months. This is what she was talking about in the video, the exercise that she did with them, whereas kind of you look at how hard you think you're working or how well you're performing versus how your co-founder is performing. And then you ask yourself the question, are the performances the same? If they are different, have you talked with your co-founder about why? Does this chart bring up an issue that an issue that may be festering with you right now. What do I need to learn from my co-founder to understand their perspective about this problem? There may be some difference in between how your co-founder sees it and how you see it. That starts the conversation. And how can I approach this conversation with my co-founder to create a productive outcome? What is the outcome you want? At the end of it, it might be, I would like my co-founder to perform better, or I would like to know how I can perform better. It could be either way, but how do you make sure that when you approach the conversation, there will be a productive outcome? That is a really good exercise for developing yourself forward. And then the assignment, set up periodic check-ins with your co-founder where there's no work, no phones, and you have non-emotional exchange, where there's an opportunity to voice concerns and space and freedom to talk about what's happening in the business and personally. So you make sure that you have dedicated times to check in about things that are non-work, just to make sure that you're both doing well. This is where you can talk about burnout. Is everybody overworked or is everybody underworked? What is the status report, if you will? And so this is what was designed. Now, what I will say is at the bottom of this, you can click here to go to worksheet part 2. There is a part 2 of it where you can go into more discussion topics. Now, I'm not going to go into all of these, but these are some key discussion topics to have with yourself and your co-founder to point out of you. Why are you building a startup? That's the number one right at the top. Why are you building a startup? What's your reason here? If you go through all of these discussion topics and then look at the measures you're taking to help maintain the physical stamina needed to help handle the stress of the business, these are the kind of like emotional things. The whys, are you building a business? And then the emotional things to follow after. If you answer all of these questions, I will just scroll because there are quite a few of them. This is a step-by-step exercise on how to develop out essentially what can form the basis of your co-founders agreement. I think it's a really good exercise. I would recommend it to anybody, any of you guys watching who are looking to develop your co-founder relationships or have a co-founder in anything that you're working on. This is a great way to start developing your co-founders agreement if you don't already have one.